and On 3 with lots to discuss in Knoxville, Tennessee this week. Brent, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing great. Hope you guys are doing well.
Yes, sir. We are excellent. Tennessee back in Neyland Stadium yesterday. No Nico Iamaleava with a stomach bug. How do you think the offense fared, though, Brent, without him leading the way and Gaston Moore getting some work there with the ones?
They were solid. I mean, they weren't the offense you're going to see, obviously, with Nico, but I think what it shows you is, and what the belief is based on everybody I talk to, is that Gaston Moore in a pinch can do things. He can finish a game out. He can manage a game for a period of time. If for some reason Nico were out of a game for, an injury evaluation, an ankle tape, or something to that effect, then I think you feel comfortable with Gaston Moore managing the game. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If Nico were out for an extended period of time, and obviously that's not what anybody's thinking about, hoping or wishing or wanting or even crossing their mind, but if he were, then I think you would see them play both Gaston Moore and Jake Merklinger. But Gaston Moore's got a command of this offense. He understands the offense. He took care of the football yesterday, made a couple of plays to Dante Thornton, moved the ball some, and I think it was an okay day for the offense. Now, you had some defensive guys who didn't go as well. This is kind of like week 2 of an NFL game where you're trying to figure out sort of who's above the line and below the line in terms of being able to help you this year if called upon. So it's a lot more about younger guys, and it was also get some guys, in the flow that didn't go in the first scrimmage. Guy like Lance Hurd, Brew McCoy went a little bit in the scrimmage. So it was kind of a mixed bag in terms of what all needed to be done. I will say this, it wasn't scheduled or planned, but it probably isn't the worst thing that you wake up on game day, so to speak, and find out you're down a starter, and you've got to immediately adjust. And that's what happened to them offensively yesterday, which when you're talking about game situations, there's another game situation for coaches.
On the defensive side, Brent, how is the battle continuing for that star position between Christian Harrison and Boo Carter? How much of a rotation do you expect to see there for these first couple of weeks?
I think you're going to see a rotation. They're going to play both of them. They want to play both of them. They split it 50-50 yesterday with the first team reps. And, I think it's a matter of Boo staying within the framework of the defense and not freelancing too much, and not being kind of a feast or famine type player. And then it's about, can Christian Harrison make the plays that you're expecting him to make, and you need that star position to make plays that Boo Carter can make regularly, as long as he avoids the play on the other end where he's, somewhere he's not supposed to be because he decided to freelance something on his own. So you got a freshman who's very talented. It's very clear. Willie Martinez, nobody's hiding how talented Boo Carter is. And then Christian Harrison's the biggest surprise of camp. That's an out of nowhere thing. And that's not a criticism of Christian Harrison. It's just a situation where a year ago he basically wasn't in the 3 deep at any position, and now he's in a spot where he could be the starter at star with the injury to Jordan Thomas. And, nobody had that on their bingo card when camp opened the first week of August.
No doubt. Brent Hubbs with us this morning. Hubbs, man, I'm a little nervous, man. It's not because you're not in the garden this morning, okay? Because I usually hear the birds chirping and it helps calms me down a little bit, okay? All right, but my nervousness, man, is there's a lot of attention and praise going towards James Pierce. And because of that, you know how it goes for guys that get preseason this and All-American that, top freaks list, top athlete list, is it usually goes a little bit in the opposite direction because that guy is culprit number 1. They're going to double team him. They're going to do whatever they can to silence him. If that's the case, Hubbs, what's the alternative for other guys eating if he's supposed to be this dynamic but doesn't?
Well, it's Omar Norman Lott. It's Omari Thomas. It's Joshua Joseph. It's Bryson Eason. It's Davin Hobbs. It's Tyree West. It's Tyree Weathersby. It's the other 12 to 13 defensive linemen that are going to play 20-plus snaps a game that you're going to be in your rotation with. That's going to take the pressure off of some of the pressure off James Pierce. I think James' biggest challenge is don't get frustrated and don't try to do something outside of the realm of what you're asked to do. Okay, and what you may be asked to do at some point is take a double team to allow somebody else to go make the play. And that's a little bit of what Tyler Barron did last year that he didn't get a whole lot of credit for, is that he helped create some sacks oftentimes when he was playing inside in that Rabbits package, because he pushed the pocket, forced the quarterback to move, and maybe he moved into James Pierce's line of sight, right? Some of those things. So I think the thing for James is you got to understand, man, they are going to come at you. You're going to get chipped. You're going to get blocked. You're going to get double teamed. You're going to get pushed out of the way. They're going to go away from you. All those types of things that's the byproduct of being a really good football player. And on the field, you have to be mature about that. And you have to play smart. And we'll say, I mean, I don't have any reason to believe James can't. I mean, he had the great start last year, and in the middle of the season, his numbers, quote, dipped, but they didn't dip. The defensive line's numbers didn't dip. Everybody was paying attention to James, and it freed up some people on the other side or in the middle to go make some plays. And I think that'll be the case again. I think one of the differences is I think Joshua Josephs will be more productive than Roman Harrison was a year ago when they flipped Roman to the other side and they went in their, quote, Rabbits pass rush package. I think they can be more effective in that package this year because I think Joshua Josephs is in a different place than he's been in. We talked about him last week, and I think he's a more talented player than Roman Harrison was or is. And I think that's a good thing for Tennessee moving forward.
If we could revisit just a little bit, man, my BVS, Batter Vols syndrome, continues to come up.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, because I got one game.
Come on, Eeyore. Talk to me, Eeyore.
I'm trying, Hubs. And you know I'm an optimist, man. Naturally, I'm an optimist, Hub, right?
All right, go ahead. Here we go.
One game that got me last year, man. It wasn't even the big two. It was the at Florida. And seeing how that defense had no response, man, is depth being developed at that spot? Because I feel like the way they couldn't stop a nosebleed off Florida's offensive left side of it is probably, I think, the dagger in the heart when it comes down to how they lost that game. Like the ability to stop the run, and I don't know if they were stealing signals. I don't know what they had down there, okay? But they just simply couldn't stop it, and that's where I'm asking the questions like, did we get something out of Elijah Simmons? David Hobbs and Big O still leading the charge, Omar Norman Lott. Like, what is that group honestly looking like as far as run stopping goes?
I think they've been very good. Okay. To this point. Now, here's the thing. I mean, at every level, you can give up a big play in the run game if you misfit something, get out of a gap, linebacker takes a false step and can't get to the hole, miss a tackle. I mean, you go back to that Florida game and you had the one long run where the tackling, looked like Saturday morning in a rec league in 7-year-old ball, right? I mean, they were bad. It was a bad tackling play, and it was a 60-yard touchdown. No. The other two touchdown drives, one was a short field because of a turnover, and the other, they gave up 2 3rd-and-7s or 3rd-and-8s on the drive. I've said this in a couple of different spots, and I truly believe this is the case. When you look at this team, yeah, they've got to answer questions in the secondary. What are the pieces? What do they fit like? They have to stay healthy. Who doesn't, right? I mean, all of those things that a lot of people around the country have right now in position battles or trying to shore up their two deep and all that. But the two stats that count for this team this year that will determine whether or not, in my opinion, what they are doing in December. Are they bowl prepping or are they playoff prepping? Okay, and I think those two stats, defensively, it's about winning on 3rd and long. They were a better defense last year in 3rd and 2 or less or 4th and short than they were in 3rd and 8. Okay, zone coverage wasn't very good. When they didn't bring the house on 3rd down, that they gave up too many big windows to throw the ball in. And then when they went man coverage, they gave up slants and different things like that. They have to win on 3rd and long. And then offensively, they got to be more efficient in the red zone. For all the talk about, well, they didn't have Jalen Hyatt and Joe Milton didn't complete 60-yard passes and all those things, and those are all true. When you look at their red zone numbers last year, they scored comparing 22 to 23, they scored 25 less touchdowns in the red zone in 23 than they did in 22. 25. So you got to be able to finish in the red zone with with Nico, with this offense, and then defensively, when you get in third and long, it's the same way in the NFL. You get in third and long, you better get off the field, right, Ramon?
Mm-hmm,
and that's where Tennessee's got to win those two stats this fall. They have to take steps forward in those two areas if they're going to reach their potential.
All right, Hubbs, I'm back, man. I'm off the ledge. Bert, hit it, man. Let's go. All right,
15 days.
Pom-pom over there.
All right. Whew. All right, Hubbs, I'm back, man. You got me.
Back.
You talk some football.
I don't know what I did to get you. That's the two key areas they got to improve on, man.
That's all it takes.
He's pumped about that. He believes.
With Ramon.
I mean, Ramon, I didn't guarantee you anything. I said if they don't do these two areas, then your battered ball syndrome's going to come true. I'm not real sure what I've done. I'd like to be your therapist. You're going to be fixed.
Bert, hit it again, man.
Here we go.
I don't care about nothing but the Vols, all right? All right, Hubbs. You see, if you ain't got the birds chirping, this is what happens, all right? This is what happens, Hubbs.
I think he needs to pay you,
Can't
Hubbs.
wait to see you, man.
If you're his therapist, that counts for something.
I think you need to pace yourself. Don't peak too early. It's not game week yet, Ramona. Okay? We're not getting ankles yet. We're not eating baby food yet. Calm down. We got a little ways to go here on this thing.
Hit again.
Oh, my gosh. Here we go. No. We've been talking about David Sanders yet.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. Whew,
You taking some deep breaths over there,
Yeah,
Brent?
I'm good now. I'm good.
If you're just joining us in that moment, that exciting moment, Brent Hubbs of VolQuest joining us here on Arcade Dove like he does every Friday. Brent, with this offense and the wide receivers, what's different maybe about Dante Thornton's mindset this year that he's improved on in just the belief and the confidence?
I think he's just settled in and trying to play football. There were a lot of unfair expectations placed on him last year. He's big, he's pretty, he looks the part when you don't put pads on. A lot of people thought he was plug and play for Jalen Hyatt. Joey Halsley, Tennessee's first-year offensive coordinator, kind of fitted him for a gold jacket in the preseason last year when he called him a freak and that he does things that other people can't do on the football field, and I think it created some pressure, and I don't think Dante handled it great. I think playing in the slot was overwhelming for him for all that they have to read at that position. With the quarterback, I don't know that he and Joe had the greatest chemistry because they didn't go through spring practice together. All those things kind of factored in. Then they moved him outside where he played at Oregon. He seemed a bit more comfortable, and then he got hurt. He made a couple plays yesterday in the scrimmage, which I think is a real positive thing. And I don't think the weight of the world is on him. I don't think he feels the weight of the world right now. I think he's just I'm trying to get my snaps. I'm trying to get reps because we're deep and there's competition there. Whereas last year, but when they handed him his jersey, he was anointed something. And I don't know that he handled that as well as – I don't know how many people would. I don't know that he handled that particularly well. So he looks the part. He looks terrific. I think he can do things. There's probably some limitations on some of the things that he does well. And I think they'll play to his strengths more this year than they did early last year when he was a, quote, early season disappointment.
Hubbs, I was listening there, and you said big, pretty, and doesn't look good in pads. For a second, I thought you were talking about Ramon Foster.
See how it goes up? See how it goes?
This is why we need you to talk him back up sometimes.
Exactly.
Bert humbles him.
Wow.
Hey, Hubbs, look, I am who I am, man, and I look awesome. You hear me?
Look, he stole your lunch. He just stole your lunch money is what he did.
You know what it is?
Sounds about
Hubbs,
right.
He hate us because he ain't us,
And he's
okay?
a Baltimore Ravens fan, which makes the dynamic a little spicy between the two of them.
It is, man. Nobody.
That's not. Don't let him outside the glass, man. Keep him behind the glass if he's a Ravens fan, right?
Exactly. Keep him in the boom boom room where Ron Slate keeps folks at.
We got to have Hubbs in here someday just to experience it live for himself. Maybe he can bring us some beans as well. So recruiting news coming up this weekend, and you guys calling it the David Sanders Day. Going to officially make his announcement. Hubbs, I think we all know where that's going. What could this do in terms of just continued momentum in recruiting for Tennessee if they land the big guy?
Well, I mean, he's a cornerstone piece for the class when you look at where they're at. And, when you're talking about a tackle is one of your high-profile pieces. I mean, everybody's looking for an offensive tackle to protect the quarterback. They're looking for somebody to get after a quarterback, and they're looking for a quarterback. It's one of the three most important, most significant pieces to roster assembly, and David's polished. I think David is a guy who, wherever he goes, is going to be ready to play early in his career. I think he's got the mindset to step in and play. I think he's highly driven, highly competitive. I think he's a great fit for your program. He's going to represent you the right way, and he can play. I mean, it's great to have all those other attributes, but the bottom line is, can you play? And David can play, and he is an extremely talented football player, and I think Tennessee has done a terrific job in recruiting him. I think George McIntyre has done a wonderful job in building the relationship with them. And the relationship with those two guys has been about more than football. They're going to be friends for life wherever the two end up playing football, if it's together or it's not together, because they have a genuine friendship. They're very comfortable hanging out with each other. When the two have come to town, it's not been about film room, or it's not been all about football. It's about hanging out and being friends. And I think that's helped make David really comfortable in Knoxville, and made his family really comfortable in Knoxville. The relationship with guys like George and current players on the team, I think that's part of the reason, and a big part of the reason why Tennessee has carried the momentum with David Sanders for a while now.
Brent, on the way out, Tennessee made a lot of headlines this week in the way that they are adding Pilot to the field, how they are getting a large sponsor with a lot of money coming in, but not have to change the name of the stadium. It kind of the first team to really do this in this specific way. I know you guys wrote about that in the War Room at VolQuest.com. For you, though, what stood out and what makes this deal so unique as Tennessee kind of blazes a trail in what they were able to do with Pilot this week?
They sold naming rights, but they didn't give up the name, which is, how do you do that, right? That's so unique and so different. And I mean, you're going to see Pilot. You've already seen it on the mic flags at press conferences. The logo's going to be on the field. The signs are up on the east side, on each, on the home of the Vols sign. There's one on each side, but it's unique in that everything from a tradition and a historical presence about the name of that great cathedral is unchanged. Yet they're getting the non-traditional corporate money that, quite frankly, you have to have in the big business world of college athletics right now. That's why Texas, who plays in Darrell Royal Stadium, is trying to figure out, how am I going to get multiple seven figures a year for my stadium and not take Darrell Royal's name off of it? How can you do that at Bryant-Denny Stadium? You're not taking Bryant-Denny off the name of the side of that stadium, right? So Tennessee has got everybody else around the country going, how did they do that? They sold naming rights. They got naming rights money for corporate sponsorship to their stadium without giving up the name, which is really incredible to be able to do that. And I give the Vol Network and Steve Early and Brandon Parks and that whole crew, Danny White, and obviously the people at Pilot, a ton of credit for making sure that the name was not changed and not touched, and then they get the corporate money everybody's looking for, because you've got to find as much non-traditional revenue in college athletics right now as you can find, because the cost of business is not getting cheaper, and it's never going to get cheaper. We're not going back to the 90s when tickets were $26 and a coach was making $750,000 a year, or maybe $1 million a year. That's not ever where we're going again. So you've got to have more money every year, and you can't just be going to the fans going, hey, instead of your ticket being $150, now your ticket's going to be $350. You can't keep bleeding them dry. That's why you got to have the corporate dollars. That's why this one's so big.
He is Brent Hubbs of VolQuest and On 3, joining us Friday at 7:20 here on the show. Now a great time to get a VolQuest subscription, as we are Carl Pickens days away from football time in Tennessee.
Carl Pickens, nice.
I will not tell you.
He changed it.
This morning, Brent, I have.
Where were you before?
So here's the thing. So I try to do.
Were you Kelly Washington?
I was not. I try to do the most random name that I can
Were you
think of.
AJ Suggs?
Keep going, Hub.
keep going.
It's not a good name for some off the field reasons.
Well, what? I mean, come on, man. It's I don't know, 8:30 in the morning, whatever time it is. I've already helped Ramon. What do you got here?
I went Jansen Jackson days until football time in Tennessee.
Yeah, that was a bad pick.
That was a bad pick.
And Hubbs, I went down a rabbit hole.
I try to pick the most random name I can think of and not go with the name brands first, and that was a bad choice.
Bad? Yeah, okay. Moving on. Let's go back to Kelly Washington.
You asked. You
Carl
asked.
Pickens days.
Hey, I walked right into it, okay? I'm good. It's on me. I walked right into that one. I own that one, all right? I own that one. At some point in time, I mean, he didn't want to tell me. I should have accepted that. I did not need to know.
He tried to tell you, just eat the hot dogs. You don't want to
That's
see
all
them be made.
Hey, Brent, for what it's worth, I looked up the Vice article and you're quoted.
I did too.
I have quoted him.
Yes.
Exactly right. I am. That was when I got that phone call. Do you want to be quoted in this story?
Hubbs, you did a good job, though. You did a nice job.
I don't think we're selling VolQuest subscriptions out of that program.
No, I don't think so. Excellent as always. As much as I try to mess it up, Brent Hubbs,
Oh, my
fantastic as always. Brent, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yes, sir. Brent Hubbs with us. More next as an NFL player, a former Titans target, finds a new home. We'll talk about that next.